Quiet.
Ah,
Hey! Happy Wednesday!
I know. Now I don't know why music don't want to stop.
That's weird. I guess, some things you have to do more than
It's
once. Sometimes we need a
okay.
replay.
Now it's like playing again and again. Okay, we're having a little technical difficulties.
Oh boy. God love when that happens. This the thing about, so when we tell you all that we are live, we ain't lying. Some people say they live, they're not really live. We live. Because there's no way we'd be doing this right now if we was recording. This stuff would have been edited out.
Right.
But it is still another water cooler Wednesday. Is it still coming up? I don't hear anything.
You all hear?
I don't hear anything. No, I did hear it, like it came up a second time, but I haven't heard it since then.
Okay.
You
Hey
think we
guys.
good? Hey, hey, out there in YouTube land. To not have dead air, while Dion is working on that, how about I just bring up what we're going to be talking about today, because she and I have been having conversations about things that people are asking about, and house hacking seems to be one of those things. People want to know what house hacking is all about. Is it something that they should do? How can it benefit them? What things should they consider? What things should they look out for? All those kind of things. So today we thought that we would just take a few minutes and actually talk about house hacking. We're going to give you a definition of it, tell you why you might want to do it, why other people have done it, give you some examples and things like that, and then just see what you think. If you're here and you
Exactly.
have questions, you can always type in the chat and we will answer your questions live.
Yes. And the thing about it, like house hacking, a lot of people like, well, kind of like how I get into investing and things like that. So we're gonna share some stuff with you to help you get into investing.
Yep, yep, yep.
All
So who
right.
are you, lady with the pretty hair today?
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. My name is Dion Branch, and I am with Allure Dream Homes, brokered by EXP, and I am your realtor, the person that's going to hold your hand all the way through the home buying process.
All right. And I am Lisa J, the house money mama with Nexa Mortgage, where brokers are better. We seem to like this brokering thing. So I'm here as the lender. I'm what they call the money lady. So any questions about money, those would be the ones that I'll be able to answer. Financing, that's all me. All me.
Okay. All right.
So
All right.
So, like we mentioned just a minute ago, house hacking. So, for me, it actually was kind of a new term. It's not something, growing up that we would hear about what house hacking is. So, I think
Mm-hmm.
it'd probably be good to have some kind of a definition that maybe we could give to people, because it's when I first thought about it, I thought it was something illegal. I'm like, they hacking somebody's house. What is that legal? How do you do that? What is it? So house hacking is really just a term that people use as a way to describe a way or ways of people generating income from their home by using their house to be able to generate income. So traditionally, house hacking meant that you would buy a multifamily property, you would live in one unit, you rent out the other unit, so then that way the tenants, what they pay you in rent, that would actually be used to cover your mortgage, and you can start to build equity and maintain the property and things like that. And savvy investors have always known that buying a multifamily property, excuse me, or doing some type of real estate investment like that can be, a nice little stepping stone. It's a way to get your feet wet, and not necessarily be all in, because
Yeah.
as a lender, I can tell you, if you're looking at doing an investment property, the cost to entry is going to be much higher than if you were to do something like what we described, as the traditional house hacking.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So that's good. So, one of the questions like people have is why should you house hack, right?
Hmm.
Why would I do this, right? And Lisa kind of touched on it a little bit. It's like you're trying to get into investing and you want to figure out a way of how to purchase homes. And so, multi units. So we talk about multi units. You could do something even, to a single family home. But there's some rules and guidelines that we have to remember
Yeah.
while we're discussing this. But house hacking is good for that person that's getting ready to start getting into investing. And one of the things what it does is it helps you reduce your living expense.
Yes.
So maybe you have one idea is if you're having a building and you may have someone renting out apartment upstairs, but you could also share your unit with some other friends, things like that, reduce your costs, because so that you can have less expenses and be able to eventually move out and go on to your next house, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's good. So, anybody like how you just talked about, you sort of hit on being able to make some kind of a strategy, like figure
Yeah.
out what's going to be the thing that you would do, what's going to be your house hacking strategy. So,
Mhm.
um, I
Right.
would
So
say that when you think about those things, you do want to consider like what your skills are. That would be one thing, because I know for me, if I was going to house hack, well, first of all, I probably wouldn't do something where I would have to be responsible for any kind of repairs, because
mhm.
I'm not handy.
Right. So you want to make sure that when you're deciding that you're going to house hack, you have a strategy, have a plan as far as how
Yeah.
you're going to execute this house hacking, and being able to execute it gracefully, right?
And
So
how
mm,
comfortable you are too, because one thing I know about just investing in general, not just real estate investment, but just when you think about like investing in the stock market and things like that, everybody has a different threshold for risk.
yeah,
Some people are very entrepreneurial minded. They don't mind taking what other people would be like, I can't believe you're
right.
willing to do that. You
Hmm.
have to really be honest with yourself and determine what your level of risk, are you risk averse? You don't want to take any chances. Are you like, okay, anything goes, I'm willing to try it and see if it works? Are
Right,
you
right.
somewhere in the middle? Are you comfortable with sharing your space? That's something to think about if you're gonna do a house hacking strategy,
And
right?
then, during that time while you're discussing or thinking about your strategy, you
Mhm.
also got to think about zoning laws,
Yeah.
homeowner association rules,
Yep.
um, you know, just all the guidelines that are out there. There's also, I kind of mentioned a little bit before, which is some lender guidelines that you want to think about and consider as well. So, the strategy is very important when starting out thinking about house hacking. And so you make sure that you really look into it before you decide that this is something that I want to do.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
me, I'm a numbers girl. So um one of the things I think would be good is to just maybe let's talk about what numbers would look like on a house hack.
Mhm.
So let's just say, for example, you want to buy like a 2 unit, a duplex. Say this is you're going to go the route of doing the house hack where you buy, the traditional way, where you buy a multi-family property and then, you basically you're living in one of the units and then you rent out the other unit. So let's just use a 2 unit, for example. So if we look at the numbers on something like that, let's say you bought a duplex and it costs $400,000. And you were able to put 20% down. Now you don't have to because actually, and I'll get to that in more detail a little bit later, but because you will be living in it, you actually can get it in a different program and put less money down. But let's just go, let's say worst case scenario, you got the money, you're going to go ahead and put the full 20% down. You get a 6.5% interest rate on a 30-year mortgage, and your mortgage payment is about $2,022 and some change. Okay. Because that was
Mhm.
like principal interest payment on a $320,000 mortgage. So let's assume that you live on one side or, one floor, if it's stacked, first floor, second floor, however it goes. And you look for a tenant and you find a tenant that's agreeable to paying $2,500 for the monthly rent. So now, if that's the case, that actually pays 100% of your principal and interest because you already got the 2022. We said it's a principal and interest, so 2,500 is obviously going to be more than what the principal and interest is going to be, and so that would actually cover the principal interest payment for your mortgage, so you wouldn't have to worry about that at all. I know a lot of people are very concerned, when they buy a house in general. Okay, what's this going to look like? And numbers wise, is this going to be something that makes sense? And obviously with house hacking, this is something that can make a lot of financial sense because you're getting help with paying the mortgage.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And then, and especially um, when we talking about it now, it just kind of seems like it's just a traditional investor. You're gonna, have somebody renting the unit upstairs, and so you have a 2 unit
Mhm,
property, right?
mhm.
But maybe you have the 2 unit property, but you're a single gal, guy, or whatever. Ask, get a roommate, right? So
Mhm.
get a roommate that will help cover part of the rent for the 1 unit that you live in. So now you have a roommate paying a portion of the rent for that one room stay, and then
Yeah.
you got somebody paying for the second unit upstairs. Maybe you could not have to pay much or anything, you
Or
know.
anything at all. Yeah, you might
Hmm.
actually end up having a surplus. A girlfriend of mine, she actually lives in California, but she was telling me it's pretty customary there that people will buy a house. Like, say, for example, somebody might own a 5-bedroom house and they will have one of the bedrooms for themselves, but then the other four they actually rent out.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
That's
if you got that same, mortgage that's 2,000, or in this case, let's just say it's the mortgage is $3,500 a month. Let's just say that.
yeah.
But I mean, if you're charging people 1,000, $1,500 to use your bedroom and the remaining parts of your home, then obviously now that's something where well, let's see, if it's, I said a 5-bedroom house, let's say that's four. So if you did 4 bedrooms at $1,500 each, then actually you
You
talking
rack it
about
up.
yeah, you talking about 6,000. That's $6,000 a month, and then basically your mortgage is covered. And if you really think about it, and if you do it right, I can give you a schedule for something like this. But you could actually take some of that. Two things are going to happen. You're going to build equity. So that's one thing, because usually they say, I think between 3 and 5% per year is how much a home will appreciate. So
Hmm.
you can build some equity. So, after like, 4 or 5 years, you may have $200,000 in equity. I'm just giving round numbers right now. I'm not actually calculating this out. But like,
Right.
let's just say that you have that. If you wanted to sell the house, take the equity, buy something else, where you put a lot of money down on it now, you have the ability to do that. Or the other thing is you could cut down the amount of time that you would need to pay your mortgage off. Because some people, that's their goal. They
Mm-hmm.
want to pay the mortgage down to zero. They want to have a
Get
house.
it down as fast as possible.
Oh my goodness, that would definitely accelerate that. If
Yeah.
you have four other people that are paying to rent a bedroom out of your home, and then you're putting the extra money toward principal, because that's the
Mm-hmm.
trick. You got to do it toward principal. Don't just do a extra payment. Some people do that. I don't recommend it. Um,
Yeah.
the thing to do is send in a payment that you specifically tell the mortgage company, apply this to principal to reduce my principal, because they cannot charge you interest on principal that's not there.
Yeah.
So you want to
Yeah.
get rid of the principal. So yeah, that would be two things actually two benefits from house hacking in that case, is that you could either or you could do both. You could still pay the extra money toward the house, so that
Excuse me.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
God bless you. So that it's taking down the mortgage, so you don't have to pay as much on the mortgage. You can pay that off faster. But you also will be building this additional equity in the
Yeah.
house. So now your home is really truly an asset.
Yes. Yeah. And we're talking about just renting, but there's a lot of different options besides just a traditional rent. You
Mhm.
could I have a friend, she just purchased a house in Atlanta, and she's preparing her basement for to be able to Airbnb it
Okay.
out.
Yep.
Okay. So
Mhm.
that's one thing. And then you also, a lot of times there's programs with the traveling nurses, right? Where the nurses were looking for some place to stay. And a lot of times they will pay top dollar for a location, and they'll pay a large sum in advance. And so as long as you're able to manage your money,
Yeah.
in that sense, because they're gonna pay you in advance, so you gotta know. But there's definitely some opportunities there.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
So, we did cover, because now you just brought up something different. And just so you'll know, because of the fact that you did bring up about Airbnb, there is specific financing for that too. So if you purchase a home and you want to use that home for Airbnb, I actually do have particular loans that will help you with being able to do that, if that was something that you were looking at. I'm not sure if that really be a hack per se,
Hmm.
um, but if that is something that people were looking at doing to actually just get into Airbnb, there is specific financing for that too.
Right, because when you do an FHA loan, because you're saying owner occupied, a lot of times they have you at your closing sign off on the documents that state that you are not going to Airbnb out that property.
Mhm.
I've seen that at the closings. I'm like, really? Oh, wow.
It's for owner occupancy. So, yep. And different loans have different requirements. So, depending on what the loan is, you definitely want to be in line with the requirements of that specific loan. I know that some people talk about a house hack that's called a live-in flip. Um,
Mhm.
and I would probably caution against that. I've seen, different places online, where they write articles and make a suggestion to do that. But you want to keep something in mind when people, well, first of all, let me say this. A live-in flip is basically when you buy a house and you say you're going to live in it, and you live in it only for enough time to flip it. You live in it to fix it up, to change some things, and then you put it right back on the market to sell it off to someone else, to another third party buyer. Okay. So, I mean, on the outside looking in, I guess you could probably think there's really nothing wrong with that, but it is, because with the intent, when underwriters go and look at a loan file, we have to consider, well, not me specifically, because I'm not an underwriter. I'm the
Yeah.
originator. But it's up to me to get a file together that an underwriter can approve in good faith. So with the live-in flip, if you were to give the impression that you're planning to live in this place as your permanent home, and you know that your intention really is to just fix it and flip it, there's financing for that. We have fix and flip financing, and it's not FHA or conventional. So so I would caution against the live in flip, and probably say that wouldn't be the best route to go because it's questionable as
Right.
far as underwriting goes. So we want to be honest with you all about stuff like that. We help you, we give you the 411, but we tell you how to do things the right way. So
Yeah.
um but here's something that a lot of people may not necessarily really think about. It's something called an ADU, which stands for accessory dwelling unit. So, like, say, for example, if you're already a homeowner, you already have a property, people have done house hacking by building an accessory dwelling unit. And that's, you can actually do FHA financing to do that too, because, you're already in the home. So you can use FHA financing to do something like that. But it basically gives a separate unit for somebody else to live in. So I've heard of it a couple of different ways. One, I've heard of people like taking, say, a garage, maybe a detached garage, and instead of it being a garage, to house the car, now it's going to actually house people.
Yeah.
So they make some updates to it, and then they set it up where it's actually a separate unit in and of itself. I read a really cool story. I should have pulled it before coming on tonight, but I read a really cool story about a young lady who did I think two additional dwelling units on her property. You know how that nowadays they have those things they call tiny homes, tiny house,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
two tiny houses on her property and rented both of them out.
Okay. And then even there's some rental properties that still have like coach houses.
Coach houses, yeah.
Right? And so whereas that's kind of the same thing, very similar, where you could have a coach house in the back, and a lot of times they'll call it an in-law house,
In-law
right?
suite, yeah.
In-law suite, right? So
Yeah.
there's a lot of different opportunities. One of my clients had two houses on the same
The same parcel.
parcel of
Mhm.
land. So, and they were right next to each other. It was very different, but
Mhm.
definitely a great opportunity for her because she was able to live in one and rent out the other one.
Amen.
Hmm.
And you know what? Another thing that I've seen people do is that, like, say, for example, if the people are up in age, maybe they're older, they now have children and grandchildren, and they want to help the coming generation. The parents will make that ADU their primary place to stay. They'll move into the smaller place, and then they'll actually have the family live in the
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I've
Yeah.
seen them do things like that too, especially like people, people are snowbirds, or, they get older, they want to travel more and things like that.
Yeah.
They're not
Yeah.
even at home. Then they got all
There's
that
a
house.
Right. There's a lot of different opportunities that you can do. Because even, when you see, maybe one day we'll talk about just the opportunities of having a large land and then having multiple houses all built up so that your whole family can stay on one
I
lot.
think we should talk about that next week and give people ideas of because now we're talking about different ideas of what you can do, but actually picking out places and making that part happen for the real estate itself. I think it'd be great to just
Mm.
tell people how to do it. Like, this is the kind of house, this is, ideas you can have for land and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Because I think of that all the time. I'm like, I would love to do that. I remember when my mom, my parents were alive. I always wanted to have a multi-unit and live in one, and then they live in the other.
Yeah.
Uh, so, and I've seen people successfully do that as well. So next week, we're going to definitely have some more ideas for you as far as how to continue down this path of house hacking and being able to purchase property and use it to your best interest as far as investing and then growing into being an investor. And there's a lots of information about this.
Hmm.
Uh,
So, Dion, what about a person who doesn't own a home, if they
Mm-hmm.
are there alternative ways to house hack for those who don't actually own a property currently?
Well, I guess are you talking about just being able to purchase as a first time home buyer? I'm not sure if I understand your question.
No.
Sorry.
Okay, so for somebody who maybe they're renting, um, how is there a way for them to house hack, like on their rental expenses or things like that? Like kind of because house hacking is basically figuring out a way that you can get the additional income to help with your expenses. So is there a way for people that don't currently have a home? Are there alternative ways to house hack for those who don't own a home?
I don't know. Share with us, Lisa, because I'm not sure if that's something that you have. I was just thinking of people being able to buy as a first time home buyer, but I'm not sure.
Okay, okay. No, that's okay. That's just something I was thinking of, like, as a way to house hack on like your rental expenses. So, for example, I know some people will talk about like their employment opportunities, that include no or low cost housing. Like, same girlfriend that I was telling you about that she was telling me in California, um, she actually works at a place where they provide her housing. She works at a senior living facility in California. And
Oh,
so there, they actually provide her with an apartment on the premises. She doesn't have to pay rent. And they give her like an allowance for, what do you call it? Like for utility expenses,
mm-hmm.
electric and even phones, stuff like that. So, because I know we really think of house hacking as obviously as being something for a homeowner, but
Right.
you can kind of hack a little bit, you know, even if you're not a homeowner yet, by looking at some more creative ways, to just be able to either get rid of your housing expense or lessen it or have help with it. So that's really what I was thinking of, the things like that.
Okay.
It's kind of alternative ways. So I know we're at the top of the hour, the half hour. so so maybe we should kind of wrap up just a little bit.
Right. Well, as we mentioned, we're definitely going to come back next week with more information about house hacking and the different ways that you could do it, and then just even maybe talk about Lisa might share more about the lending as
Yeah.
well. So there are different lending opportunities that are out there that you can use as far as when you're purchasing multi-unit properties or
Right.
investment properties, So,
Yeah, because
and
we
you
really
got
have
to make sure.
to get into that today, but that'd be great when you talk about the different properties that a person is considering, then I can let them know what kind of financing would be available for that kind of
For
property.
that house. Yeah, yeah. All
Mhm.
right.
Okay, be
So I am, as always, we are excited for we're excited. I just want to make sure we didn't have any comments. I didn't have the comments section open, but no comments for today, but just want to say thank you for coming and joining us. It's another Wednesday, Water Cooler Wednesday. We're here for you every Wednesday at 6 o'clock, and we're excited to talk about these different topics to make sure that you're aware of everything you need to know about real estate. All right. And my name is Dion Branch, and I am again with the Lord Dream Homes. And if you have any questions thinking about just purchasing a home, give me a call. Here's my number. You could give me a call, and then we can start to make a plan. And then when you need to actually start to work on your finances and get ready to be approved, I'll send you over to Lisa. And you can, but if you want to start there, you can contact Lisa as well, and she could give you all the information you need.
Yes, I can.
Uh,
Well, thank you everybody for coming with us tonight. We appreciate it. Please make sure to like and share. We we really are passionate about real estate, and we'd like to be able to impact as many people as possible. There's a lot of misinformation on the internet, but you won't find that here. We give you, genuine information that is what's happening now in our industries. We're both licensed professionals. We take our licenses and our business really seriously, and obviously, we love our customers, and we do the best that we can to help them. So we love to have you as one of our customers, and we also would love it if you would just follow, like, subscribe, share, so we can get the word out to as many people as possible, because we want to turn more renters into owners and more owners into investors, and help more people build generational wealth, because that's what it's about.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Have a good night, everybody. Where's my music?